This is a recap of Tusk, a dark comedy horror film written and directed by Kevin Smith, released in 2014. If you enjoy the video, please like it, subscribe to our channel, or leave a comment in a section below. Podcasters Wallace Brighton and Teddy Kraft are in the midst of recording a segment for their show Nazi Party, bursting into laughter over a video that has captured their attention. The video features a kid wielding a katana, earning the moniker the Kill Bill Kid. In a bizarre twist, the kid accidentally severs his own leg, garnering significant online attention. Intrigued, Wallace plans to travel to Canada soon to meet the kid and secure an interview. Upon reaching Canada, Wallace encounters an amusing cultural misstep at the airport when he admits his lack of knowledge about hockey, referred to as a Canadot. Undeterred, he proceeds to the home of the Kill Bill Kid, only to discover the family in mourning as the kid has tragically taken his own life. Wallace breaks the devastating news to Teddy from a local bar, where he stumbles upon a note offering a room for rent, promising stories of adventure. Curiosity piqued, Wallace ventures to Bifröst, arriving in an estate called Pippi Hill and meeting Howard Howe, portrayed by Michael Parks. Howard, confined to a chair and seemingly unable to move his legs, serves Wallace tea and begins recounting a story of fighting alongside Ernest Hemingway. Howard even showcases a bottle of liquor he shared with Hemingway and points out a bone on a mantle, once belonging to a walrus and used in a peculiar manner. As Howard narrates a tale of being saved at sea by a walrus named Mr. Tusk, Wallace begins feeling woozy. Realizing he's been drugged, he passes out, reassured by Howard with the unsettling words, "It'll be alright, Mr. Tusk." A flashback reveals a pre-trip moment where Wallace, receiving oral sex from his girlfriend Ally, portrayed by Genesis Rodriguez, exhibits rudeness about his upcoming journey. Ally, preferring the old, dorky Wallace, disapproves of the newfound enjoyment he finds in exploiting peculiar individuals for the podcast. Despite Wallace acknowledging the ethical dilemma, he persuades her to continue the intimate act. Upon waking up, Wallace finds himself disoriented and in a wheelchair. Howard attributes his condition to a spider bite, leading to hospitalization and swelling in his leg. As Wallace uncovers his amputated and sewn-up left leg, he realizes he's been strapped to the chair to prevent him from standing. The gravity of the situation dawns upon him. During dinner, Howard cruelly taunts Wallace about his circumstances and his plan to answer the age-old question, is man truly a walrus at heart? Provoked, Wallace labels Howard as insane, leading to an unsettling confrontation where Howard stands on his own 2 feet, slapping Wallace. As Wallace screams, Howard mocks him with bizarre noises. Simultaneously, Ally delivers a tearful monologue, addressing Wallace's apparent infidelity, finding solace in Teddy's comfort. In another flashback, right after the Kill Bill Kid incident, Wallace admits to cheating on Ally with fangirls. Ally, desperate for answers, receives no response from Wallace, who, in reality, is attempting to leave her a heartfelt voicemail, apologizing for his behavior and urging her to seek help. Howard abruptly interrupts this attempt by knocking Wallace unconscious. The next morning, after spending the night with Teddy, Ally retrieves her phone and hears the distressing message from Wallace. Realizing he is in significant trouble, she seeks Teddy's comfort and support. Howard amputates more of Wallace's limbs until eventually, he has taken all of Wallace's flesh and tongue, shaping him into an actual walrus with tusks and flippers. All he can do now is hop and scream as he is chained up. Howard tells him about how he was orphaned as a boy after his parents were killed, and the years of sexual and mental abuse she received, leading him to hate humans. Howard forces him to swim in the water around him. Underwater, Wallace sees what looks like the corpse of another man that was turned into a walrus, still decomposing. Ally and Teddy reach Canada and attempt to call the police, but they get hung up on after Ally mentions the podcast site, NaziParty.com, because it sounds like Nazi. They meet Detective Frank Garman, Ralph Garman, who states there is no record of anyone named Howard Hal in the area. He does provide Ally and Teddy with the number of his friend, French-Canadian Detective Guy Lapointe. They meet him at a fast food place, where he reveals knowing a man who has reportedly captured about 23 victims and dismembered them. 2 years earlier, Guy encountered Howard when he was posing as a disabled man named Bartholomew. Guy was searching for a missing hockey player, although Howard called about a spider. Guy later found the hockey player's torso clogging up a sewage pipe, and Howard disappeared. He informs Ally and Teddy that most victims had their leg bone in their mouth. Guy recalls hearing from a victim's mother that this mystery killer is creating a monster. Howard continues tormenting Wallace by making him swim in the water while nude, followed by feeding him a single mackerel. Ally, Teddy, and Guy visit a convenience store where two clerks identify Wallace as Mr. Mustache. They hand Dad a notepad where Wallace wrote the address to Bifrost, shading over the pad with a pencil to reveal the letters last written. Howard dons his own walrus flesh suit to fight with Wallace, revealing that he had to kill the original Mr. Tusk and feed off him to stay alive. He believes man is a horrible species, and the walrus is more noble and dignified, attempting to restore honor to Mr. Tusk by having his man-walrus experiments fight him back. He forces Wallace to fight him, just as Ally, Teddy, and Guy arrive, armed with guns. They hear Wallace screaming and follow the sound. Howard sheds the suit and tries to fight Wallace as a man by killing him with a hammer, but Wallace's inner walrus takes over, impaling Howard's foot with his tusk. He gets him down and begins impaling him through the chest with his tusks, right before Ally and Teddy enter. As Howard dies, Ally cries when she sees what Wallace has become. Guy aims his shotgun at Wallace while Ally pleads with him not to shoot. Wallace lets out one more scream. 1 year later, Ally and Teddy go to the Manitoba Exotic Animal Sanctuary. Wallace is now in his own little area with a dirty pole. Ally tosses him a fish so he can come out. Wallace eats the fish and looks at Ally as she calls him. We see one more flashback with Ally commenting on how Wallace can't cry. He thinks only babies cry. In the present, Ally tells Wallace she loves him. He sheds a tear. Ally and Teddy leave. Wallace briefly appears to look at the audience before going back into his home.